Hello, everybody here and Zoom and potentially people in the future watching the recorded here. Welcome to the November Sno-Isle Genealogical Society meeting. I want to welcome everybody to the Wickers building here in Heritage Park in Linwood, Alderwood Manor, gateway to Briar, as we say. It's so nice to have you. We'll get started with our presentation in just a moment. But for anybody who is new, first time, maybe not a member, Sno-Isle Genealogical Society, or SIGS, is a fully nonprofit, all-volunteer association. So if you find some stuff you like, if we've been of value to you, please consider becoming a member or giving us a donation. You can go to snoislegenealogy.org. That's our website. You'll also see other things that we have going, including our library that's open on Thursdays and Saturdays from 11 to 3. And we have a regular meeting on a coffee clutch on Mondays that you can join us. So would love to have. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. And let me start by introducing Janet Bruckshen, who is, in addition to being an amateur genealogist, are you more than an amateur?
No.
No. Okay, good. She has a day job in which she's the executive director of Washington Vocational Services, a not-for-profit organization which provides employment and community services to individuals with disabilities. She's been in the field for over 40 years, following in the footsteps of her mother, she says. And I think we're going to hear some more about her mother. So this is going to be great. So I'm going to sit down and get out of the way. Janet, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for thank you. Thanks for allowing me to come in and present to you tonight. I'm very excited to do so. As Ray said, I'm with Washington Vocational Services. I'm an executive director. And I kind of chose that field because my mom was very active in the field when I was growing up. That's what she did. She was one of the first placement specialists in the state of Washington, supporting individuals with disabilities that were living in institutions prior to that. And so it was very rare for us to go out anywhere to a restaurant or a movie theater without us first checking on the way out the door. As we were leaving, she would talk to the managers and see if there was opportunities for some of the clients that she was supporting. So it's kind of instilled in me at a very young age. So that's kind of why I do what I do. But I'm going to walk you through a little bit of my story here. At any time, if you guys have questions, just let me know. If not, we'll go through and we have time, I believe, afterwards for questions as well. So again, thank you for letting me be here today. I'm going to slide my toolbar a little bit so I can read my notes. So I apologize if this doesn't mess up the screen. Okay. So I'm one of 5 daughters born to Marie, Alda Malgazzini, and Harry Woodward. And as I mentioned, my career has been in the field of disabilities all my life. Before I mentioned, I've been doing this 40 years. I'd like to say I was 8 when I started, but that's not the case. So you can kind of guess my age by how long I've been doing this. This is a picture of my mom and I on a trip to Italy in 2008. It was my first and only trip with my mom. And it was just an incredible experience that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. But I'm going to kind of take you back to the beginning of my mom's story here. So my mom was, this is a picture of my mom when she was 2. She was born on 8/2/22. She was actually born in Monroe, Washington. Her family was from Italy. And they came here on a vacation to visit an aunt and uncle that had moved to Monroe. And while here, my grandma went into labor a little bit early, and they ended up having my mom, they were visiting in Monroe, and they ended up staying about 2 years before they actually went back to Italy. So my mom was one of 7 children and the only one who was born in outside of Italy. Her uncle's family had moved here and settled in Monroe area, and that's why they were here. So after they returned to Italy when my mom was 2, they had 6 more children. My mom was the oldest of 7. They had 5 boys and 1 more girl. So my mom had US citizenship, which became an issue, as we'll talk a little bit later when we talk a little bit about them leaving. So this is where my mom's family grew up in Italy. It's called Regoleto, and it's in the Lombardy region. It's very, very north of Milan. It's about 90 miles north of Milan, and it's right by the border of Switzerland. And so my mom talked an awful lot when we were growing up. She talked a lot about being in the Alps when she was young, walking and hiking in the mountains, and she just loved being that close to the mountains. And when I was growing up, we bought a cabin up in the Verlat area because it was as close to the mountains as she could get, and it was like her favorite place in Washington State to be. Because she remembered all of her great memories of being close to the Alps. My mom's described her life as just being really idyllic in Italy. They had a big bakery. They had an apartment they rented out on the 2nd floor, and on the 3rd floor the family lived. So they were had a really nice situation. They were well-to-do. All of my grandpa and grandma's, I called them Papa and Nini, but all of their brothers and sisters all lived close by on the same street in Regoleto. So it was just a block kind of owned by family, and they were very well-to-do and very popular area to be in. It was small, but a lot of family lived in the area. So she loved it. She would go down the bakery and help her parents, and it was the street right in front of the bakery was where the Tour de France ran every year, and so my mom would go down and hand out water to the bikers as they went. So as I was growing up, every time the Tour de France was on TV, we had to watch glimpses of it because it brought her back. So she loved it. They also had a place up in the mountains. So because they were where they were located in Italy, when it got really hot out in the summer, it was unbearable to be where they were. So they kind of climbed to get a little bit in colder weather. So there was a place called Gualdera, and it was north of Regoleto, and it was it's just a small stone little cabin, no roads. They had to take horses. They got horses from a farm that was at the bottom of the mountain. They'd go up in the horses, and they had 9 people in a 2-room little stone cabin. And she said summers were her favorite time because it was just her family up there, and they'd ride the horses and play in the creek. And she just loved this place. She talked about it a lot. We didn't get nursery rhymes when I was growing up. My 5 sisters and I got stories of my mom's time in Italy. So let me see here. She had a close friend named Sunta that she was very close with, and a Saint Bernard named Bari. And she just talked a lot about how much she loved her life. So she lived there from the age of 2 to 15. And the only negative thing that was happening at the time was Mussolini was in charge, and and he was dictator in Italy from 1925 to 1945. And one of the concerns that my mom's family had was the fact that my mom had US citizenship and the rest of the children were born in Italy. And there was a lot of talk about citizenship and a lot of concern about what was going to happen as they started talking about war during that time. So life really began to change. My mom talked about having a bike that was taken by soldiers. They saw it and they just took it. And she went after it and didn't really understand the danger of that. She got in quite a lot of trouble from her parents because she didn't understand why that was a dangerous thing. But she followed them, and when she saw them put it off to the side, she took it back. And could have been a bad story, a bad ending. But so one night, she was in the town square, and she realized how scary the world had kind of become. Her whole family had went to the town square to listen to the radio that they would broadcast, and everybody that was expected to be there, no work or anything. The soldiers expected all the people to be in the square listening to the news. And so Mussolini was really talking a lot about how boys were expected to grow into fierce soldiers who were going to fight for the glory of Italy, and girls were expected to be good mothers who would provide Italy with a increased population for a greater power. So that was a message they were getting taught every day. And so each week, the entire country was required to go to the community square and listen to Mussolini's speeches. And everybody was required to stop working. And my mom described this event as the first time she realized just how much danger they were in. So my mom's family was standing in the square, and one of her cousins wasn't there. He had decided he wanted to finish his milking chores before he went to the square. And so they were kind of concerned about that, and they were looking for him. And she turned and saw that her young cousin had been carried in. They had 2 soldiers on his feet and 2 soldiers holding his arms, and they carried him in front of the square in front of everyone to prove a point that he was breaking the law by continuing to work. And they beat him up in front of everyone, knocked up out all his teeth. He was very seriously injured. And so they left the square and they went home. And my papa said, we're leaving to America tonight. So they got a hold of a neighbor and said, we'll give you the bakery. We'd like money for it eventually, but we're leaving tonight. So no goodbye to her best friend, nobody to take her St. Bernard. A neighbor, I think, took it, but she didn't get a take it with her. And they ended up leaving. So for many years, my mom talked about the pain of not being able to say goodbye to her best friend and just the life that she had to leave behind. It was very, very hard for her. She is up here. I don't know if the mouse will show you, but she's the one up here looking not very happy. She was 16 and the oldest. And this is their passport photo. So they ended up going to Paris for the night and then getting on a boat to take them to Ellis Island. So my mom told me that, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm on the right slide. My mom said that every time she saw the Statue of Liberty, it got her very emotional because she talks a lot about how she remembered looking up as the boat came in and the whole family just kind of sat there with tears streaming down their face. They were sad to leave the family and the life that they had, but they were very happy after their journey to get home or to get to a new home. So it was a very emotional time for them. So they arrived by train to Paris and they stayed there 2 nights, and then they boarded the ship. It was the SS Champlain from the port of Le Havre. I'm not pronouncing it right, but France. And it was a 21-day trip on the ship. And all 9 of them stayed in this little stateroom up here. So they had 9 people squeezed into this thing. My mom had a diary. She kept a journal, and she said in it, she wrote that she cried the first several days because she missed everybody, and saying goodbye to them was, not having the opportunity to say goodbye to them was just killing her. But then they started playing games in the room and watching movies in French. She didn't have a clue what they were saying, but she loved the images. And she wrote in her diary, and she promised her aunts in Italy that she would send the diary back. She did end up sending it back to them by mail several years later, and unfortunately never made to them, and it was never returned to my mom. So they never heard what happened to it. But one thing that happened, the SS Champlain was struck on the return trip back to Italy. It was struck by a German air land mine while swinging at anchor in the waters off of France, and it heeled over on its side and sunk. Days later, a German submarine fired a torpedo into the hulk of it and finished it off. It was one of the largest ships sunk in World War II and the earliest passenger loss of World War II. This picture down here is just the Ellis Island records that they keep. It shows my mom's name and that she was 15 years old when she arrived. It also showed a family that their treasures that they took over was $12 for the family of 9 when they came over here. So they had quite a bit of wealth in Italy and weren't able to bring anything over with them. They never did get payment for the bakery when they wrote the person years later. They were never successful in getting it. They don't know what happened to the family that bought it. So my papa's siblings followed soon followed from Italy as well. So several brothers ended up coming over, and my family and my uncle's family settled in Monroe, and then a couple siblings chose to go to Whitehall, Montana. And my mom soon settled into like a dairy farm life. She became known all over Monroe for riding her bike up and down Marsh Road and over by where the Monroe Penitentiary is now. But she started getting out exploring very early on. My mom was a member of the first graduating class of Sno-Isle High School. She learned to speak 5 languages. She learned to be a seamstress when she was in Italy at a very young age, and so she kind of did that on the side for her family to earn some money. She went to Edmonds Community College and got her associate's degree. She was the first woman to graduate with just going to night classes. So she was always about setting goals and breaking boundaries, which was pretty cool. So the boys in the family, as well as my mom, decided to join the war on the United States side. My mom really wanted to be an interpreter. She knew multiple languages, so she signed up for the Women's Army Corps and became a WAC. She also continued her allegiance to the U.S. After she got out. My mom was a quartermaster for the Sno-Isle Veterans of Foreign War chapter for many, many, many years. So she was stationed in New Guinea. And in New Guinea, Private Malgazini met the love of her life. My father was from Kentucky, and they met serving in New Guinea and ended up getting married while in New Guinea. They had to get permission from General MacArthur. My mom, in her diary, had a written permission slip, basically allowing her to get married while she was in the service from General MacArthur. And then after the war, they moved to Everett, Washington. And my mom was one of the first group of women working at Scott Paper Company at the time. And they started their family of 5 girls. 5 girls in 1 bathroom, as my dad used to get very frustrated in saying. He had to wait in line a long time. My mom and dad talked a lot, or my mom talked a lot about returning to Italy to find her best friend Sunta, to visit the places she loved, and she was really wanting to get back to the cabin in Mato that she'd go to, the little stone cabin. Because they left in the middle of the night, they never got back there to take their stuff out of the cabin, and didn't get a chance to do anything. So this is me and my 4 sisters. So my father started saving up. He worked at Nord Paper Company, and he started saving up money to get her back there. And so he was able to buy a trip for her and her sister Lily in the late 70s. And she went back there, and she spent the first 3 days of her trip trying to track down her old friend Sunta that she hadn't seen since she was 15. She was successful in reuniting with her. And they picked up like they were 15 again. My mom used to get phone calls from her every month, and it was in Italian, so I have no idea what they were saying, but they were having fun, I can tell you that. I had the opportunity in 2008 when I went to Italy with my mom to see Sunta and meet her, and she talked to me and told me that what it was like when she went to the house, the bakery, the day after my mom left, and a stranger answered the door and told her that my mom had left the country, and she spent so many years just not knowing what happened to her. So that was really emotional visit to hear her talk about all that. So over the years, my mom started taking trips with each of us one at a time. She would kind of treat us, which was nice. She took 4 out of the 5 of us. And every time we'd go back there, she'd insist on hiking up into the mountain. And we had to hike because there was no roads. It was a very winding road. You could take a motorcycle probably, but no paved roads. So every time she takes one of us back, we'd go up in the mountains, and she was determined to find that stone cabin where the family of 9 would sleep. And when it was my turn, we went up there. My mom was 86 when I went with her. I barely made it up there. She was helping me get up there. She was having me count to 100. She'd say, take 100 steps and then we'll take a break. And I'm like, oh my gosh, woman, you're 86 years old and you're telling me, but she was just amazing. But she kept remembering little landmarks. like wild roses or little creeks, and she'd be like, I know it's around here somewhere. And we couldn't find it. But she was always just at peace being up there because she knew it was somewhere around here. And she'd tell me how they'd ride the horses in and just some of the games that her and her brother would play. And it was just clear it was a really special place for her. So even though we couldn't find it, she was really at peace knowing that we were up there and she could show me the surrounding areas. So this is my sisters and I again. So my mom passed away in 2014, and she left numerous diaries. What she started on the ship, she continued all through her life. And so when she passed away, we found numerous volumes of diaries. And one of the things she talked about is a desire for all of us to go there with her. She never really talked about it, but she wrote how special it'd be if we could all go back there sometime. So while we couldn't fulfill that wish, we all decided to take a trip together. So in 2018, all 5 of us went to Italy, and we took her diaries, and she was very specific on, where she rode her bike and where she went to church. And so we just followed the diary and went everywhere and met a lot of people that remembered her. And I always thought she was embellishing some of the stories that she told me of things that she did there, but she wasn't. Every time we went somewhere, they'd tell me something. I say, sure, that really happened, huh? So my sister ended up falling in love with the area on our trip, and she bought a place she actually bought my mom's aunt's house. And so she lives there now 6 months out of the year. So it's a great trip for her because she ended up coming home with a house. So we decided not only to go to Regalado and all the places where my mom lived, but we also decided to go to up in the mountains in D'Amato. I wasn't sure I wanted to try it again after that time, but I figured if my mom was 86 and could do it, I would give it one more shot. So we all decided to go up there and just get some pictures of all of us up on top of the mountain. So this is Mato. So it's very remote, very steep, long winding road. And there was only 7 houses that were built there before 1945. So my mom's was one of the 7. The population, I'm sorry, I have to move my cursor here. There's only 413 people now that live there. So back then it was even less. So it's a very small place. There's no bank, there's no post office, there's no church. It's just remote, and it's straight up. And it took us about 2.5 hours to hike straight up. I was tired, I can tell you that. Okay, let's see. So I didn't find any horses coming to take me up there, unfortunately. So it was just a long climb. So it was, again, straight up. We were trying to find any civilization. We came across just wild sheep everywhere in this one place, and no houses, no people. So I don't know who they belong to, but I remember my mom talking about them. So I said, I think we're on the right track. So just a very long climb. It was a day trip, but we started very early, and I think I logged 48,000 steps a day on my Fitbit, which I've never ever done again. And so the 2 youngest, myself and my sister, were the first to get to the top, and we decided to sit down and brag and take pictures that we were the first ones down, and waited for my 3 older sisters to get up there. So this is at the very top, and we found water, and my mom had talked about a little creek that was up there. So we thought, are we close? There were signs everywhere that were in Italian, and we didn't know what they said. And they didn't have pictures. And so we asked somebody when we got to the top what it said, and they said, watch out for bears. So I thought, oh, great. We have no bear spray, no anything. But nice to know. You think they'd put a picture or something, but. So we walked around. We were all trying to remember landmarks that my mom said. And I remember my mom had said there was a lot of wild rose bushes by the place that she grew up. And my sister remembered the small creek. And then we looked out and we saw a man and woman mowing their yard. And so my older sister was the only one who really spoke much Italian. Mine was very, very limited. I could say, where's the bus? And that's it. And I didn't think it would help me in this situation. So my sister went over and just said, excuse me, we're just wondering, we're looking, kind of told her the story and said, we're looking for, there used to be a small stone, and both the woman and husband kind of looked at each other and they got super excited and they said, follow me. And so my sister turned around and told my sisters to follow her. As soon as we went around the house, and it looked like it had been newly built, as soon as we went around the house, we saw the stone cabin. And they were so excited. They said that they bought the place 2 years prior, and it had just a bunch of overgrown roses and bushes everywhere. And they spent like 6 months just macheting all the ivy and the leaves and everything, all the trees and bushes and stuff, until they saw that there was something under there. And then it took another 6 months for them to get a locksmith to come up there to get into it, because it was a stone. There was no lock on the door, but you couldn't push the door open. It was just 80 years, exactly 80 years that it sat there. And so they had just got into it, had a locksmith and just got into it. And they said, you're welcome to go in. So everything that my mom's family had was in the stone cabin, and it had been 80 years. So we were just amazed. And they were it was a summer, what's that?
Better than archaeological.
Yeah, it was a summer home for them. And so they just happened to be there. They only go like a couple weekends a year. So the timing, everything was just incredible. So we got to go in. My Nini's stove was still in there. They had started putting some of their wood and stuff inside there, but Nini's stove was still in there. A little shelf that they had was in there. To the left is my mom and her sister's bedroom. And so it was just, you could just see a little bit in there. The springs were in there still for the bed and everything. But other than that, it was just kind of, they had started to store some wood in there. There was a picture of my mom when she was really young. There was a diary my mom took that my sister has in Italy, or I was going to bring it tonight. But in it, she wrote about how much she loved being there. And so just incredible. We wanted to take everything with us, but it took us forever to get up that mountain. I wasn't about to carry that stove on my back on the way back down. But they said that when they had, trucks, if they ever had anybody leaving and going back down, that they would get something to my sister. So my sister was able to get some of the artifacts there, but it was pretty amazing. And then we asked them what they were doing with the building. They were going to turn it into a dollhouse for their daughter, and they had their daughter come out and meet us, and her name was Matilda, which was my Nini's name, which was kind of cool as well. So we all just got some pictures taken outside of it. This is what the outside looked like, and we were very excited. It was a very emotional day for us, but the only thing that would have made it better was an elevator to get us back down the hill, because it took us a long time to get down there as well. Then we all went and had a drink because it was a very long walk, but it's just a very cool experience. And wish she would have known that we made it there, but I'm sure she does. So it's very cool. So that's
how large your building would that be? A few hundred square feet.
probably 200 square feet,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. A whole family of 9. Yeah. They were pretty cramped in there. Yeah, there was a main room and front room kind of thing, and then the back room where the girls slept, and then all the boys slept in the main room with the parents. So yeah.
It takes you to hike up it.
It took us about 3 hours to hike up, and about 2 hours, a little bit over 2 to get back down. So yeah, quite the experience. So yeah. Yeah, it was very neat. Got to see a lot of other stuff that, she had talked about and wrote about in the diaries and stuff, but this was the one that I think meant the most to her. And she always talked a lot about just simplicity and stuff. And they had this huge, three-story bakery, but her favorite place was that tiny little, room. And I think it's because they were all together and, just a close family time. What did I bring back? About 25 pounds. We ate so much pasta. Just a couple little things from there. I got the picture of my mom, a couple little mementos that she had in there, just some little things from the Alps and stuff that she had, like a little horn that was for the animals that, and a picture of her dog and stuff like that. But my sister got a lot of the stuff that was in the cabin that she's put now in the house. So, but it's nice. There was paperwork in there that about like historical stuff from, you know, in the 1800s that they had put in there, just kind of like the dowry kind of stuff from previous family members. So that was kind of cool to go through. But yeah, it was a great experience. So
Go back sometime.
yeah, we are going to go back. We've have a lot of family there that we've discovered, and they all still kind of stay in one place. So the one area that we found where we have a lot of my mom's cousins, they all just kind of live on the same street. So when we go, we can, you know, visit a lot of people at the same time. So there's quite a few of them over there. So my sister living there now, she spends 6 months out of the year, and so you know, we're hoping to go every 5 years, the 5 of us. So yeah. Yeah, she's the one who knew a little Italian. Yeah, I've been doing Duolingo ever since because I need to say more than she told me. The bus isn't going to cut it because we never even used the bus, so I have to learn some more more Italian before I go back.
Your family came over. Did they-
No, the couple went to Montana, but they went to Monroe right away, and it's because they already had when my mom was born here, it's because they were visiting an uncle, so they had relatives here already in Monroe. There was already a family there. One of my papa's brothers. 1938. Yeah, she was born in Monroe in 1922, so they were here in 1922, but my mom's family didn't come over until 1938. So my mom's uncle was here in 1922. The Salvadolinas in Malgazini. Malgesini. Oh yeah. Yeah, Salvadolina is my uncle's name, and some of them landed in Sultan, and Sultan, Snohomish, Monroe is where a lot of my family are from. Yeah. Which one? Oh, that's off of Marsh Road. In gosh, the old Seattle Hill, I think you call it. When you go down, you take a right. It was the first big dairy farm. And then there's a barn that used to be a red barn that was at the end of Marsh Lake before you got to the old bicycle tree. That's my Uncle Zeogelios. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Not sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they had a very big, large farm in Monroe. My mom was, she had a lot of, she didn't sit still, and I did not get that from her, but she was very heavy worker on the farm, and she was dragged by a horse. They were working out on the farm. She was somehow her leg got caught under this machinery that was the horse was pulling, and she broke her leg in like 3 places, and it fell off something and broke cracked her skull open, and she was still climbing a mountain at 86. So I don't know. Oh my time. Yeah, she so Yeah, I don't know. She was a very first class from Sno-Isle. It might have been. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Mm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we do a family reunion every year, and it's called the La Famille Nostra. Right, sure, we this is my great grandma and grandpa that started the family, and so we do that every year. And uh, we were in the paper a few years ago. We had about 430 people that come, and some people come from Italy. This last year we had like I think 220, so it's getting smaller. But we have our relatives from Montana that ended there come over here, and then we go to Montana every 5th year. So so we try to keep everybody, together, and yeah.
Well, when they first came over, when they required that sponsor.
The sponsor? Yeah, I think they did. I'm pretty sure my mom had said that the uncle had to sponsor the family when they first came over here. Yeah.
When they came over. Yeah, and she's his first sponsor.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the uncle that did that. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So what did the family do?
Dairy farm. My three of my uncles were butchers in Sno-Isle, John Malgavini, and and then just a lot of the farm, working on the dairy farm, and then the butchering and stuff. So in Italy they had the bakery. Yeah, I don't think they did the bakery when they got here. I think they were just doing dairy and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, and they actually didn't end up living all that much longer after my Papa and Nini, when they got here. I never met them. They passed away long before I was born. So so it was mainly all the kids.
So have you been able to research your family prior to your American?
I haven't personally. My sister has started, and so we're just now kind of talking about doing all that. We've got a lot because other people in the family have sent us a lot of stuff, but we haven't done a lot of that ourselves. My sister's just really starting to get into it. Yeah. I know a lot about my mom's side. I don't know too much about my father's side, but like to know more about that. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. Hmm? My dad was from Kentucky. Yeah.
Your family been with us longer, or they also recently?
No, he was born and raised in Kentucky. They lived in the U.S. Their whole life. So and the way my mom was driving a army Jeep for the first time. Her and her friend were in it, and she rear-ended my dad. And so that's how they met and been. So she was accident prone, I think. But we were talking about the Alps, and she loved climbing obviously at 86, but we went on a walkathon together when she was about 80, I think, for the March of Dimes in Everett down Legion. And we went together, and I wanted to stop at all the pit stops because they give you free ice cream and stuff like that. And so we stopped, and I said, let's get an ice cream. And she said, no, not getting ice cream. This is exercise. And I said, well, will you hold my bag while I go get ice cream? And so she did. And then I came back, and I said, you should use the bathroom while you're here. And she said, okay. So she put her bag down. And when she was gone, I went to pick it up to get water, and it was so heavy. And I thought, what had she got in here? And I opened it up, and she had like 3 of those red bricks that we use for our flower garden. And she came out, and I said, what are you doing? Why would you carry this? And she said, I wanted to feel like I was a young girl in the Alps and make it a little bit harder. And so, that's the kind of woman she was. So, yeah. So anybody online here have questions? Hi, Troy. Blue. Can't hear you, just a sec. Let's see if, are you able to hear him? I can't, no,
No, I think it's a mute
okay.
right now. Yeah.
Okay.
The area, I mean, I think a lot of us think of Rome, or further to the south, Sicily, when we think Italy. This territory right up into the Alps is so much more, so much different, so much as comparison. Are there other differences that, I don't know if you've traveled in southern or other parts of Italy, but just geographically, regionally, are there more than just the food or other sorts of things?
According to my mom, Southern Italians weren't really Italian, so I don't think she'd let me go to like Sicily or something. She'd go, oh, no, that's, so, but we, Lake Como is kind of where her, you know, her hometown is in that area. And so a lot of different types of terrain, lots of different types of places, just gorgeous over there. We spent a lot of time, like I said, going to all the places that were in her diary, and she went all over the place. So, you know, we hit some of the big ones like Venice and stuff, but it was more the small little remote areas that were just breathtaking, really beautiful places. But I didn't go on the southern end. What? Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah, she was very close to Lake Como. Huh. Yeah. That's where the cabin was. When there was the picture of me and my the second youngest sister, when we finally came out of the top of the mountain, that's what we saw. And it was a welcome sight because I thought there's got to be people around here. We got to be at the top of this because it was a long walk up, but it's really nice. Just right around the corner is where all the wild sheep were. But
we also talked about connecting with family there. Is there anyone, are there people still in your, what would be your mother's generation of cousins?
there was 2 left when we were there. Both of them have passed away since then, but we're all really close with all their kids now. And so my sister, second cousins, yeah. So, yeah, my sister just sent me an email today. She went to a wedding over there, and it was like a 18-hour event. They walked from one place to another, have 7 courses, and then they went to but it was for the second cousin, so she's very close to them now. So it's been really nice connecting with them. And my mom had kept up, you know, communication with all of them. She had found, like I said, her best friend. She had found a lot of her, you know, family and stuff. Quite a few friends actually, but it was the one that was her closest friend. So, and she passed away just about 2 years ago, the best friend. But we kept in touch with her even after my mom passed away. So. The bakery is now a meat shop, but it's still there. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah.
In terms of genealogical things, like records and stuff, your focus has really been sort of on the, maybe we might call it family history. It looks like figuring out the stories and stuff. Have there been resources genealogically that are different when you're doing research for Italian family, either stuff here or in Italy, or you said your sister starting to do some of that, so.
Yeah, one of the things at our La Famiglia Nostras, the family parties that we have in the summer, is everybody's been doing research on their own individual branches of the family. And so at our one next August, they're all, excuse me, bringing it to kind of put together a large family tree. So we're trying to kind of break it into smaller things. So they're really starting to do that now. Yeah, starting to do a lot of that now. But we found a lot of stuff on paper while we were in Italy that that kind of helped us with the historical kinds of stuff. The problem has been that a lot of the same names, like I think I have 16 uncles named Erasmo, and I thought it was a common or a rare name till I went to Italy, and they all had the same last name. So I was like, how do we know who's who? But but yeah.
Are there gaps or either better records or worse records because of the time during World War II, but it's not just where they're destroying records or keeping records or being ultra vigilant in keeping records? Does that have a different sort of spin to working with that stuff?
Yeah, I would think so. And I do know that part of the reason that my family never got the money for the sale of the bakery and stuff was because records were destroyed. It wasn't because the people tried to, rip off my Papa Nini. It was more of it sounded like destruction of records, that there was no proof of sale.
Probably would be a good idea to send money to the US government.
Yeah. Yeah, and they fled within 12 hours of the town meeting, so they didn't really have time to do anything. And communication back then was the air mail. So once they got to New York, they sent word back to the person who got the house that they were over there. And I mean, that could have taken months just to get that over there.
A couple more years before Venmo was created. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made it a little easier. They could have done the cryptocurrency.
Or less than 12 hours to back to the visit.
Oh, yeah. Took me a lot more than that. Yeah. Just for a visit. Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that a lot. My mom talked about that a lot. So we all talked about that an awful lot. So, when I went back with my mom in 2008, my mom had Alzheimer's, but she had really good long-term recall. And excuse me, one of the things she used to tell us was that she would ride her bike 18 miles between her grandma's house and her place, and through tunnels, and there was it was dark, and she just risked her life every time. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But she'd also talk about the boyfriend that she had named Diego and stuff. And so we were on one of the days we were walking, and she was showing me the church she had baptism and communion at, and we walked outside, and a man again mowing the yard, which is really weird, but a guy was mowing the yard at the church, and he looked over, and then he looked again, and then my mom looked, and all of a sudden they were just, it was like a slow motion movie, running to each other, hugging and talking in Italian. And I'm like, what's going on? My mom turned to me and started saying excitedly who he was, but she was telling me in Italian. I'm like, yeah, I still don't understand what you're saying. But anyway, it was Diego. And so that was really cool. They reconnected, and he was the priest. He became the priest of the church that she grew up with. And then he told me, he'd say, oh, your mom, when she was young, do you know she used to ride all the way? And I'm like, oh, she wasn't lying. She really did. He said she was amazing.
That's her priesthood. I mean.
Exactly. It was because of my mom. He turned to the life of a priest, I guess. So yeah, my dad never made it over there, but he was always wanting to send her. So she did get to go back. When I was growing up, I remember my mom going to Italy like 3 or 4 times. So it was really important for him to be able to send her over there. So I tell my friends, you can tell when my mom is in Italy because I have all my class pictures in a photo album, and my hair is nice and everything until this one when my dad was gone, and I had like a ponytail up here and a braid down here because he did my hair. So I always knew what year she went. I said, you must have went to when I was in about 5th grade. Yeah. So. My dad was actually Irish. So Irish and Italian heritage. So you know what they say about that. So yeah, don't know that much. They didn't have a whole lot of records either. He's from a very small town in Kentucky. And they had everything that he owned. When my mom and dad got married, they ended up in Michigan after the war for just a brief time, and they had a house fire, and he lost a lot of this stuff. So we don't have too much on him, but we are gonna try to look. I'm sure there's stuff somewhere that we can find. So he always said my mom's family was way more exciting than his.
So that we have elections or
On Kentucky? I really don't know. I'm not sure. I was very young when I went there. And all I remember is tobacco plants everywhere. So it was a pretty small area. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions online? No? Well, thank you for letting me come in. Anybody else have any? Great.
But I love the family story part of it as compared to here are the records and here's birth and death and a few things happen in between. And being able to see that, I can imagine going back would be just a really fascinating, particularly for you and your sisters, to sort of ponder what happened in 1938 and all that. So thank you, Jen.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you so
welcome.
very much. Thank you for everyone who's here. Thank you for the folks that are online. A reminder, first Wednesday of December is a member-only holiday potluck gathering, good times to be had by all. If anyone's not a member, go on, register. If you'd like to help, we could really use one or two additional bodies to help organize things here in the coming week. And then we'll get going with in the new year with more open meetings. So spread the word. We'll have things up on the calendar as they become available. And I think with that, let's call it a meeting. Thank you, everyone.